Shalom, shalom, and Hag Sameach, Hanukkah, everyone. Thank you for joining us for another evening with our weekly Torah and Customs class. We're going to begin shortly. We are on the third night of Hanukkah, and so we're continuing the 8-day celebration for the miraculous miracles that God had bestowed upon us in the days of old when the Maccabees had overtaken the Syrian army, and we were able to restore the temple and the menorah to relight it as instructed by the Father Yahweh, that it's never to be extinguished. And just like in our own personal lives, we need to keep our light burning in these days of darkness, that all will come and see and know the truth with pureness and wholeheartedly from Yahweh. Thanks again. We're going to start here soon. Please stand by.
Well, Baruchim Habayim. Welcome to all of you who are watching this online, whether you're watching live or by the archive. It doesn't make me any difference. I'm ready to be here and teach you if you're ready to learn. Amen? Today we have a blessing, and that is that it is the third day of Hanukkah. We just began the third day this evening, which is Tuesday evening, and we are going to be celebrating beginning the third day as of sunset this evening, which just occurred a little while ago. But we also have a Torah parsha that we're going to be looking at a little bit tonight, and so we'll see how much of which one or either or which or something else that God leads us into as we go through the teaching tonight. Did you say something to me? Oh. All right, so we're going to be, move me a little bit to the side there, Larry. There you are. So we're going to be looking at both the tradition of Hanukkah as well as the Torah parsha, which is Miketz. Miketz is simply translated at the end or just beyond, at the end of the Shanatayim Yamim, at the end of full 2 years of days. So that'll be 365 days a year times 2 would be 720 something. 365, that'd be 330 days. Excuse me. Yeah, 730 days. Isn't it? I don't know. Don't get me to lying. Yeah. 730 days after Joseph interpreted the dreams of those two guys, nice guys that got thrown in prison with him. All right. I'm looking for a reaction from my very limited audience tonight, and I'm not getting it. All right, well, we'll go on without our audience. Okay, so it's only been 730 days since he has interpreted these dreams. Now, I know that Joseph, as soon as God gave him the answer to those dreams, he thought that it's only going to be a very short time now, and I will be out of this prison, this dungeon. And the longer it drug on, the more discouraged he probably got. And after 730 days, I'm sure that he was at the end of his rope. Couldn't stand it any longer. And so anyway, that's when the baker, not the baker, but the wine server remembered Joseph and stuck down there in that prison with all of his gifts of God. You know, there's somebody got in my face one time and said, if you really have a gift from God, it'll make a way for you. Oh no, I'm going to tell you the truth. More than likely, if you have a true gift from God, it'll get you killed. Yep. Just ask all the prophets of old when you see them. Say, hey, did your gift make a way for you? And they probably want to hit you. So duck fast. Mm-hmm. So we'll get started with our Torah lesson in just a few minutes. In the meantime, we got several menorahs, at least two menorahs burning here. These are Hanukkah menorahs. And what does a Hanukkah menorah have to do with the price of tea in China? Depends on the time of year, I guess. But Hanukkah always comes in the wintertime, in the winter months. And so that's why we have a reference in the Brit Hadashah that Yeshua was in Jerusalem at the Feast of Dedication, and it was wintertime. And that was the festival known as Hanukkah. How do you say festival in Hebrew? Chag. You have to guttural roll that front end of it. Chag. And we say Chag Sameach, meaning a happy festival. Chag Sameach shel Hanukkah. Or Pesach, or whatever season of the year it is. So we have a lot of customs that are based on the Bible, but Hanukkah is not based directly upon the Bible. What is Hanukkah based upon? The restoration of the temple, where we recovered the temple from the hands of the evil Greek armies that tried to slaughter pigs in there and everything else you can think of. And of course, when we took it back over, we had to cleanse the temple, and then we put the oil in the menorah, which is a 7-branch menorah.
Right.
I'll bring up the picture of the menorah that you had up there a few minutes ago.
Sure.
On the third day of Hanukkah. So there you can see we've got the shamash, which is the one that's elevated in the middle. And then we have 3 of the Hanukkah daytime candles that are, or lamps that are lit. And we have one of those for each of the days a miracle happened, which at the end of 24 hours, the candle should have burned out. But here we are, 3 whole days later, 8 whole days later, and it's still burning. And so that was considered a great miracle because there wasn't enough oil in there for them to last 3 days. It was only supposed to last 24 hours. So this is the story of Hanukkah, how that it began, the recovery period of the temple, and it lasted all the way to the end of the Hanukkah season, which would be 8 days, 8 full days out of 1 day supply of oil. Okay, so This is one of our customs, our traditions that are brought to us that is not a direct result of a command from the Torah. But it still memorializes the time when God did a miracle for Israel, in that the temple was recovered, the menorah was lit, but they realized it too late that they didn't have enough oil to make it until they could get more oil. So when they came back with more oil, it was still burning, and so they recognized that as a miracle of God. It's amazing. Here in our story for the Torah tonight, we have Genesis chapter 41, beginning in verse 1. Father, I ask you to be with us tonight as we study. We dedicate ourselves to you and your word tonight. This is your Torah, so we ask you to teach us. Put your words in my mouth and give us some good food to chew on tonight as we study your word. And we ask this in the name of Messiah Yeshua. And the congregation says, now say this after me. Father, I'm hungry. I ask you to feed me tonight.
I ask you to feed me tonight.
Right off of your word.
Right off of your word.
And I'm thirsty, Lord.
And I'm thirsty, Lord.
Give me living water to drink.
Give me living water to drink.
Enough so I'll have plenty to give to others.
And so I'll have plenty to give to others.
In the name of Messiah Yeshua.
In the name of Messiah Yeshua.
Amen.
Amen.
Baruch Hashem. I'm going to be seated.
Follow.
I guess I must be getting to be an older gentleman of my youth. My strength and energy just doesn't seem to go as long as it used to. I don't know what happened, but maybe my petrol has gotten weaker. You know, they change up the gasoline every once in a while. They got a mixture of 10% ethanol. And you know what happens if you leave ethanol sitting stable for, for just a few months? What's going to happen? Huh? Well, it doesn't either.
Separates.
It separates. Went up to get my lawnmower from service at the Austin Outdoor Power Company. They repair small engines. And the guy behind the counter says, "No, you don't want to keep ethanol mixed gasoline in your lawn equipment." And then he set this bottle up here on the countertop, and it was obviously two separate substances, and they had separated. And we got the ethanol floating on the top, and then we got the rest of the gasoline components are on the bottom. And it's like there's a clear line of demarcation between the two fluids. And it's like pouring oil on top of your water. It's just going to sit there and stay separated. It's not going to mix. So anyway, the gasoline is not as good as it used to be because it doesn't last but maybe a month or two. If you keep it longer than that, it's going to get separated and bad on you. So anyway, I thought that's really wonderful how they jerk us around. Well, you got to buy this new gas and pour out the old and get some new in if you whatever. And he told me if you go over to the certain gas station over in Bastrop, you can buy non-ethanol gasoline there. And he says that's what you need to run in your lawn equipment and your personal power equipment. So anyway, I'll probably go over there and buy me a gallon of that stuff, and it'll probably last me 3 times longer than the gasoline that comes otherwise. Excuse me, but that felt good. So, how long does Hanukkah last? 8 days. And why do they count 8 days out? That's the number of days that the miracle took place, that the miracle of the oil lasting for 8 days instead of just 24 hours.
Right.
Okay, so here we are, and it came, and it was at the end. Miketz means at the end. I'll see if I can get my inscriptionator pen up here. Vayehi, and it means, and it was. Miketz, at the end of Shanatayim. Shanatayim means 2 years. And Yamim literally means 2 full years, 2 years full of days. So it says, Pharaoh dreamed a dream, and behold, he stood by the river. Of course, that would be the river Nile. I'm sure he dreamed that he was doing some kind of a water ritual thingy that they do every year in the springtime. And behold, he stood by the river, and behold, out of the river there came up 7 cows. Parot, cows. And they were Yaphot. Yapha means nice, pleasant. You know, this is Yapha here. So he said they were cattle that were beautiful cattle. And they were well favored and fat fleshed, beefy cattle. Beefy cows. And anyway, and they fed in a meadow. And behold, 7 kine, or 7 cows, acharot, and that means literally after them, alot, they came up, acharehim, there it is, acharehim, means after them. Continuing on, and it says, and behold, 7 other kind came up after them out of the river, and they were evil. Ra'ut. Ra means evil. And these were like the Walking Dead cows, okay? You've seen the zombie cows from the movies, you know. And these were ill-favored or wicked-looking. They were skinny in flesh, and they stood by the other cows upon the brink of the river, and they ate up the other cows. The ill-favored ones ate up the well-favored and fat cows. So Pharaoh woke up all of a sudden. First time he'd ever dreamed about zombie cows, I guarantee you that. And then in verse 5, behold, 7 ears, thin and blasted. Oh, wait a minute. Went the wrong direction or something here.
Went too far. Yeah, there you're at.
Oh, yeah, here it is in verse 5. And he slept and dreamed a second time, and behold, 7 ears of corn came up on one stalk. And they were in rank and good. In other words, well formed and well positioned on the stalks. And they were good, tovot. And behold, 7 ears thin and blasted with the east wind sprung up after them. I'm going to switch on over to the English version. And the thin ears swallowed up the 7 full ripe ears, and then Pharaoh woke up and realized it had been a dream.
So really wasn't sure it was a dream, I guess.
I guess these were zombie corn ears. In the morning, he found himself so upset, he summoned all the magicians of Egypt. And the word magicians here would be like cartoonim or cartoons. Why would he call his magicians cartoons? Because it ain't going to happen in real life. Magicians don't have any ability to do nothing miraculous. Okay, so we've got guys here that are understood not to be real life caricatures. So the magicians of Egypt and all its wise men, Pharaoh told him his dreams, but no one there could interpret them for him. Then the chief cupbearer said to Pharaoh, "Today reminds me of something that happened 730 days ago."
It's not the way it says it, but it's understood.
Well, I'm telling you what the reality of it is.
Yeah, that was a trick response because we normally say, "But Rabbi, that's not what it said."
So the cupbearer said to Pharaoh, "Today reminds me of something where I am at fault." How was he at fault? Because he waited 730 days to tell his story to Pharaoh. Pharaoh was angry with his officials and put me in prison of the house of the captain of the guard, me and the chief baker. And one night I and he had dreams. And each man's dream had its own meaning. And there was a young man with us in the prison, a Hebrew, a servant of the captain of the guard, and we told him our dreams, and he interpreted them for us. He interpreted each man's dream individually, and it came about as he interpreted to us. I was restored to my office, and he was hanged. That was their dreams. That reminds me of a movie I once saw. It's called The Matrix. What was the woman's name that was the prophet there in that picture, in that story? I can't remember right now. But anyway, she had told Morpheus that, don't worry about the picture.
Oh, Neo.
Huh? Neo.
She told Neo that.
Oh, yeah. She told Neo that? I thought it was Morpheus. Anyway, she told Neo, don't worry about the picture. And about that time, he turned around, his elbow bumped the pitcher and knocked off and broke on the floor. Yeah. And he said, well, I'm sorry, I didn't mean... She said, you don't need to worry about it. Don't be sorry. You should just wonder about what caused this. Was it because I said don't worry about the pitcher or what, you know? So anyway, she was interpreting a prophetic utterance for him right there on the spot. It came about as he interpreted to us. I was restored to my office, and the baker was hanged, just like he had prophesied. So was it his prophecy that made it happen? That reminded me back on Neo and I can't remember the lady's name that was in there, but I guess they're relevant. But is it the words that go out that make the prophecy happen? That's good for food for thought, isn't it?
Yes.
So Pharaoh summoned Joseph, and they brought him quickly out of the dungeon. He shaved himself and changed his clothes and came to Pharaoh. Pharaoh said to Joseph, I had a dream, and there is no one who can interpret it, but I've heard it said about you that when you hear a dream, you can interpret it. Joseph answered Pharaoh, hello, how are you, Pharaoh? Oh,
wait, what? No, I just came when you're talking about the dream part. But you were going to talk about me. You're like, nobody to interpret the dream. Here I am.
So anyway, Joseph answered Pharaoh, it isn't me. God will give Pharaoh the answer that will set his mind at peace. Pharaoh said to Joseph, in my dream I stood at the edge of the river. There came out of the river 7 cows, fat and sleek, and they began feeding in the swamp grass. After them there came up out of the river 7 more cows, poor, miserable looking, and lean, like zombie cows. I've never seen such bad looking cows in all the land of Egypt. These zombie cows. Then the lean and miserable looking cows ate up the first 7 fat cows. Well, they were really zombie cows, weren't they? But after that, they had eaten them up. One couldn't tell that they had eaten them because they were as miserable looking as before. At this point, I woke up. It sounded like my teenage son. When he was a teenager, he would be just like those zombie cows, man. He would eat up everything in sight and still be hungry. So one couldn't tell that they had eaten them because they were as miserable looking as before. Well, no wonder they ought to try eating corn. But I dreamed again and saw 7 full ripe ears of grain growing out of the single stalk. After them 7 ears, thin and blasted by the east wind, sprang up. And the thin ears swallowed up the 7 ripe ears, and I told this to the magicians, but none of them could explain it to me. Joseph said to Pharaoh, the dreams of Pharaoh are the same. God has told Pharaoh what he is about to do. The 7 good cows are 7 years, and the 7 good ears of grain are 7 years. The dreams are the same. Likewise, the 7 lean and miserable looking cows that came up after them are 7 years, and also the 7 empty ears blasted by the east wind. There will be 7 years of famine. This is what I told Pharaoh. God has shown Pharaoh what he is about to do. Here it is. There will be 7 years of abundance throughout the whole land of Egypt, but afterwards there will come 7 years of famine, and Egypt will forget about the abundance. The famine will consume the land, and the abundance will not be known in the land because of the famine that will follow, because it will be truly terrible. Why was the dream doubled for Pharaoh? Because the matter has been fixed by God, and God will shortly cause it to happen. Therefore, Pharaoh should look for a man both discreet and wise and put him in charge of the land of Egypt. Pharaoh should do this, and he should appoint supervisors over the land to receive a 20% tax on the produce of the land of Egypt during the 7 years of abundance. They should gather all the food produced in the years of abundance. They should gather during these good years, coming up, and set aside grain under the supervision of Pharaoh to be used for food in the cities, and they should store it. And this will be the food supply for the 7 years of famine that will come over the land of Egypt, so that the land will not perish as a result of the famine. The proposal seemed good both to Pharaoh and all his officials. Pharaoh said to his officials, "Can we find anyone else like him?" The Spirit of God lives in him. Yes! That's what I'm talking about. So Pharaoh said to Joseph, "Since God has shown you all of this, there is no one else as discerning and as wise as you. You will be in charge of my household. All of my people will be ruled by what you say. Only when I rule from my throne will I be greater than you." Pharaoh said to Joseph, "Here I place you in charge of the whole land of Egypt." Pharaoh took his signet ring off his hand and put it on Joseph's hand, and had him clothed in fine linen with gold chain around his neck. And he had him ride on his second best chariot, and they cried before him, "Bow down." Thus he placed him in charge of the whole land of Egypt. Pharaoh said to Joseph, "I, Pharaoh, decree that without your approval no one is to raise his hand or his foot in all the land of Egypt." Pharaoh called Joseph by the name of Zephanath Paneah, and gave him as his wife Osnat, the daughter of Potiphar, the priest of On. See, Potiphar was a priest. He was the priest of On. Then Joseph went out through all the land of Egypt. Hallelujah! Joseph was 30 years old when he stood before Pharaoh, king of Egypt, and then he left Pharaoh's presence and traveled through all the land of Egypt. During the 7 years of abundance, the earth brought forth heaps of produce. And he collected all the food of these 7 years in the land of Egypt and stored it in the cities. And the food grown in the fields outside of each city he stored in that city. Joseph stored grain in quantities like the sand of the seashore, so much that they stopped counting because it was beyond measure. 2 sons were born to Joseph before the year of the famine came. Osnat, the daughter of Potiphar, priest of On, bore them to him. Joseph called the first one Manasseh, causing to forget, because God has caused me to forget all the troubles that I suffered in the hands of my family. The second he called Ephraim, fruit, for God has made me fruitful in the land of my misfortune. The 7 years of abundance in the land of Egypt ended, and 7 years of famine began to come, just as Joseph had said. There was a famine in all lands, but throughout the land of Egypt there was food. When the whole land of Egypt started feeling the famine, the people cried to Pharaoh for food. Pharaoh said to all the Egyptians, "Go to Joseph and do what he tells you to do." And the famine was over all the earth, but then Joseph opened all of the storehouses and sold food to the Egyptians, since the famine was severe in the land of Egypt. Moreover, all countries came to Egypt to Joseph to buy grain, because the famine was severe throughout the earth. Hallelujah! God's got a plan. God's got a plan. And believe me, some of you listen to me, you understand this. God is able to make you forget all the bad stuff that happened to you as a result of your families. We must not forget who is with us. That's why we say Yahweh Roe, Lo Exar, I have no wants, no needs. And we also quote the end of that in Hebrew, which is, it says essentially that, yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for Yahweh is with me. So we have cause for rejoicing. All the witchcraft, cursing, and everything they've been doing to us all these years hadn't done anything to us except for make us realize that the time of accounting is coming. Everybody say that. The time of accounting is coming. Chapter 42. Now Yaakov saw that there was grain in Egypt, so Yaakov said to his sons, "Why are you staring at each other? Look," he said, "I've heard that there is grain in Egypt." Oh, gee, I wonder who told him that. You reckon it might have been Yahweh? Go down there and buy some for us from there, and so that we can stay alive and not die. Thus Joseph's 10 brothers went down to buy grain from Egypt, except for Benjamin, Joseph's brother. Yaakov did not send him with his brothers because he was afraid something might happen to him. The sons of Israel came to buy along with the others that came. Since the famine extended to the land of Canaan, Joseph was governor over the land, and it was he who sold to all the people of the land. Now Joseph's brothers came and prostituted themselves Oh, they prostrated themselves. Somebody finally woke up. Who was that? Huh? I don't think all of you did until somebody said something. I think Shane was the one that first started it. So Joseph's brothers came and prostrated themselves before him on the ground. Joseph saw his brothers and recognized them, but he acted toward them as if he were a stranger and spoke harshly with them. He asked them, "Where are you from?" And they answered, "From the land of Canaan to buy food." So Joseph recognized his brothers, but they didn't recognize him. Remembering the dreams he had had about them, Joseph said to them, "You are spies! You've come to spot out our country's weaknesses." "No, my lord," they replied. "Your servants have come to buy food." "We are all the sons of one man. We're upright men. Your servants aren't spies." "No," he said to them, "you've come to spy out our country's weaknesses." And they said, "We are your servants. You are 12 brothers, the sons of one man in the land of Canaan. The youngest stayed with our father, and another is gone." "Just as I said," replied Joseph, "you're spies. Here's how you can prove you're not spies. As Pharaoh lives, you will not leave here unless your youngest brother comes here. Send one of you and let him bring your brother. Meanwhile, you will be kept in custody, and this will prove whether there is any truth in what you say. Otherwise, as Pharaoh lives, you are certainly spies." Is he having fun getting even with these brothers? The ones that tried to pretend that he died and sold him off into slavery to those Ishmaelite traders that went down into Egypt and sold him to Potiphar. Boy, he's having fun today, isn't he? Right.
What? Reuben was the only one that didn't sell him because he had gone back to get him out of the pit. He was already sold.
Right. So then he put all of them together in prison for 3 days. And on the 3rd day, Joseph said to them, "Do what I say and stay alive, for I fear God. If you are upright men, let one of your brothers remain incarcerated in prison you're being kept in while you go and carry back to relieve the famine in your homes. Bring your youngest brother to me, and in this way your statements will be verified and you won't die." So they did it. They said to each other, "We are in fact guilty concerning our brother." they tied the two numbers together and realized they were at fault. "He was in distress and pleaded with us, and we saw it and wouldn't listen. That's why this distress has come upon us now." And Reuben answered them, "Didn't I tell you?" "I told you. I tried to tell you." I've done that to my brother before, and he wanted to kill me. "Didn't I tell you? Don't wrong the boy," but you wouldn't hear of it. Now comes the reckoning for his blood. And they had no idea that Joseph understood them, since an interpreter was translating for them. Joseph turned away from them and wept. When he returned, he spoke to them. He took Shimon from among them and put him in prison before their eyes. And next he ordered that their containers be filled with grain, that every man's money be put back in his pack, and that they be given provision for the journey. When these things had been done for them, they loaded their grain on their donkeys and departed. But at camp that night, one of them opened his pack to give fodder to his donkey. He noticed his money. There it was, just inside his pack. He said to his brothers, "My money has been restored. There it is, right in my pack." And at that their hearts sank. They turned trembling to one another and said, "What is this that God has done to us?" They returned to Yaakov, their father, in the land of Canaan, and told him all that had happened to them. The man, the lord of the land, spoke harshly with us. He took us for spies in his country. And we said to him, we are upright men, not spies. We are 12 brothers, sons of our father. One is gone, and the youngest stayed with our father in the land of Canaan. But the man, the lord of the land, said to us, here's how I can know that you are upright men. Leave one of your brothers with me. Take grain to relieve the famine in your homes, and go on your way. But bring your youngest brother to me. By this I will know that you aren't spies, but are upright men. And then I will return your brother to you, and you will do business in the land. Interesting story, isn't it? Don't you know Joseph is having the time of his life? I'm pretty sure he is.
Can y'all not hear me? Wow.
He said so much and so little in such a big space.
I just said maybe not exactly in that sense that he's having that much of a good time. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, well, I think he was pretty much enjoying himself with every word of torment he could dump on his brothers because of the way they treated him. Yaakov, their father, said to them, 35, next as they emptied their packs, there was each man's bag of money in his pack, and when they and their father saw the bags of the money, they became afraid. Yaakov, their father, said to them, you have robbed me of my children. Joseph is gone, Shimon is gone, and now you're taking Benjamin away. It all falls on me. Reuben said to his father, if I don't bring him back to you, you can kill my own 2 sons. Put him in my care, and I will return him to you. But he replied, my son will not go down with you. His brother is dead, and he alone is left. If anything were to happen to him while traveling with you, you would bring my gray hair down to Sheol with grief. You have a comment or question? What's the matter? Are you slow? I'm just giving you a hard time. You know that.
As usual.
As usual. Okay, so we'll go down to the next chapter. The famine was severe in the land, so when they had eaten up the grain which they had brought out of Egypt, their father said to them, go again and buy us a little food. Judah said to him, the man expressly warned us, you will not see my face unless your brother is with you. And if you will send our brother with us, we will go down and buy you food. But if you will not send him, we will not go down. For the man said to us, you will not see my face unless your brother is with you. Israel said, why did you bring such trouble my way by telling the man you had another brother? Nice hindsight there, Yaakov. And they answered, the man kept questioning us about ourselves and about our kinsmen. And he asked, is your father still alive? Do you have another brother? And we answered according to the literal, my fingers aren't quite wide enough to reach. According to the literal, whatever it was. The literal meaning of his question. How were we to know he would say, bring your brother down? Judah said to Israel, his father, send the boy with me, and we will make preparations and leave, so that we may stay alive and not die, both we and you and our little ones. I myself will guarantee his safety, and you can hold me responsible if I fail to bring him to you and present him to your face. Let me bear the blame forever, except for our lengthy delay. We would have been back there again by now. Their father Israel answered them, if that's how it is, do this. Take your containers, some of the land's best products, and bring the man a gift. Some healing resin, a little honey, aromatic gum, opium, pistachio nuts, and almonds. They're going to take them some drugs, man. Opium. You didn't know our ancestors were in the drug dealing business, did you? It is opium. That's what opium is.
Where does it say opium?
Down in verse 11. If you get, we can go down to verse 11 and open it up in the interlinear, and I'll show you. Let's see. Okay. Huh. Sorry. It means a leak, to crack as by pressure, hence a leak, distillation, i.e. balsam. And then let's see what the other words are here. Dabash is honey. Nakot, spices. And that was the sticky key.
Yep, sticky key is.
Yeah, that's what
fingers.
I was trying to look up this opium, and it revealed on me.
Sounds like a sticky situation.
Let's see where that is. Well, I don't know where they got opium from, but they translated one of these words, opium. Anyway. And take double the money in your hand, and the money that was brought again at the mouth of your sacks, and carry it again in your hand. Perhaps it was an oversight. And we'll go back now to Complete Jewish Bible. Yes, and take your brother too, and get ready, and go again to the man. May El Shaddai give you favor in the man's sight, so that he will release to you your brother as well as Benjamin. As for me, if I must lose my children, lose them I will. And the men took the gift, and they took twice the money with them, and Benjamin, and then they prepared and went down to Egypt and stood before Joseph. When Joseph saw Benjamin with them, he said to his household manager, take the men outside the house, kill the animals, and prepare the meat. These men will dine with me tonight, with me at noon. And the man did as Joseph ordered, and brought the men into Joseph's house. Upon being ushered inside Joseph's house, the men became fearful. They said, it's because of the money that was returned in our packs the first time that we have been brought inside, so that he can use it as an excuse to attack us and seize our donkeys too. So they approached the manager of Joseph's household and spoke to him at the entrance of the house. Please, my lord, the first time we indeed came down to buy food, But when we got to camp, we opened our packs, and there inside our packs was each man's money, the full amount, and we have brought it back with us. Moreover, we have brought down other money to buy food. We have no idea who put our money in our packs." "Stop worrying," he replied. "Don't be afraid. Your God, the God of your father, put treasure in your packs. As for your money, I was the one who received it." And then he brought Shimon out to them. The man brought the men to Joseph's house and gave them water. They washed their feet. He provided fodder for their donkeys. And when they got their gift ready for Joseph's arrival at noon, for they had heard that they were going to eat a meal there, when Joseph arrived home, they went into the house and presented him with the gift they had brought with him, and then prostrated themselves before him on the ground. He asked them how they were, and inquired, "Is your father well?" "The old man of whom you spoke, is he still alive?" And they answered, "Your servant, our father, is well. Yes, he is still alive." As they bowed down in respect, he looked up and saw Benjamin, his brother, his mother's son, and he said, "Is this your youngest brother of whom you spoke to me?" And they added, "May God be good to you, my son." Oh, he added, "May God be good to you, my son." Then Joseph hurried out because his feelings were welling up toward his brother were so strong he wanted to cry. He went into his bedroom there and wept. And when he washed his face and came out, he controlled himself as he gave the order to serve the meal. They served him by himself and the brothers by themselves. There it is. And the Egyptians included at the meal by themselves. The Egyptians don't eat with Hebrews because that is abhorrent to them. So they sat there facing him, and the firstborn in the place of honor, the youngest in the last place, and the men expressed their amazement to each other. Each was given his servant there in front of him, serving there in front of him. But Benjamin's portion was 5 times as large as any of the others. So they drank and enjoyed themselves with him.
Yay.
Yes?
No, I said yay.
Yeah. So he ordered the manager of his household, "Fill the men's packs with food as much as they can carry, and put each man's money just inside the pack. And put my goblet, the silver one, just inside the pack of the youngest, along with his grain money." And he did what Joseph told him to do. At daybreak, the men were sent off with their donkeys, but before they were far out of the city, Joseph said to his manager, "Up, go after the men. When you overtake them, say to them, 'Why have you repaid good with evil? Isn't this the goblet my Lord drinks from? Indeed, the one he uses to divine that you have done this evil?'" So he caught up with them and said those words to them. They replied, "Why does my Lord speak this way? Heaven forbid that we should do such a thing. Why, the money we found inside our packs we brought back to you from the land of Canaan, so how would we steal silver or gold from your Lord's house? Whichever one of us the goblet is found with, let him be put to death, and the rest of us will be my Lord's servants." And he replied, "Fine, let it be as you have said. Whichever one is found with it will be my slave, but the rest of you will be blameless." Then each hurried to put his pack down on the ground, and each one opened his pack. He started with the oldest and ended with the youngest, and the goblet was found in the pack belonging to Benjamin. At this, they tore their clothing in grief, and then each man loaded up his donkey and returned to the city. Yehudah, his brothers, arrived at Joseph's house, and he was still there, and they fell down before him on the ground. Are they fulfilling prophecy? Yeah. I think so. Joseph said to them, "How could you do such a thing? Don't you know that a man such as myself can learn the truth by divination?" Judah said, "There is nothing we can say, my Lord. How can we speak? There's no way we can clear ourselves. God has revealed your servant's guilt. So here we are, my Lord's slaves, both we and also the one in whose possession the cup was found." But he replied, "Heaven forbid that I should act in such a way. The man in whose possession the goblet was found will be my slave. But as for you, go in peace to your father." And that's the end of this week's Torah Parsha for Miketz. Boy, did he get it, I got you from all of this. And only God could bring all this about. It's awesome. Amazing. Comments or questions, anyone?
My observation reading this.
Are you
weeks
coming out
forward.
on the broadcast? Okay,
Okay.
good.
My observation is one in which this had to happen to humble his brothers, because God also knows their hearts. They were all revealed to be stubborn and stiff-necked. This is a process God used to really humble them and bring them low.
Could you bring that up in this room?
The slider.
I know, I'm just got only 2 sets of eyes, and there are 8 different directions right now.
Okay, I got
Can
you.
you-
I'm
can you hear
hearing
me?
you good now.
Okay, good. Okay, so let me reiterate what I was saying in regards to humbling his brothers in such a way that would forego possible conflict in the near future. So, 2 things, and the reason why I say that in my studies this time around is I've observed different studies, rabbinic studies, and researched online in regards to this subject. One observation that was interesting was that had Joseph not made them go through this process and brought them low and humbled them, but instead just revealed himself and pardoned them, would his brothers have found opportunity to plot against him again? They plotted against him once. Why not plot against him again?
Well, that probably makes sense on a human level, yeah.
And so God also had him take his brothers through this process because, again, God knows their hearts and knew they had to be humbled and disciplined. Multiple experiences here to finally bring them to a point where they would not conflict with his brother once he revealed himself to them. And then especially pardon them for the crime that was punishable by death, which was the crime in which of kidnapping him. And they were going to kill him. If not for Reuben, he would have been murdered.
Okay.
And so they were all punishable by death.
Yeah. Other comment?
Well, basically,
Get a mic somewhere.
is it picking me up?
I'm fire.
Okay.
Yeah.
Basically, it fulfilled that he was large and in charge.
Mm-hmm. And is God able to make that dream prophecy come true?
Yeah.
Oh, yes. Okay. Good comments. Thank all of you. I guess that's going to do it for our study for today. We're out of time, so God bless you. And go over this Torah Parsha again and get ready for Shabbat, so you may even have some good questions to anticipate during the Sabbath service or during the teaching time. God bless you and Shalom.
We want to thank you for joining us this evening again for another Torah and Customs class. And remember, it is the third night of Hanukkah, and so we wish you a Chag Sameach, a joyous festival, as we continue to celebrate through 8 days of Hanukkah. And just remember the miraculous things that God has done into your life, as also we recount the miracle that took place with the Maccabees and the Syrian army. The Maccabees were able to retake the temple and restore it back unto the use for holiness unto Yahweh. And so we shall meet again on Shabbat morning. It's Saturday morning with our 10 a.m. Bibles Issues class, followed by our 11 a.m. main service with worship, liturgy, and another teaching. And also to know, it is Rosh Chodesh. It it is the beginning of the 4th month of the biblical Hebrew calendar. So, much to celebrate. We shall see you again. And Shalom Shalom. Hag Sameach.